Hello, trading is closed on January 27th, 2016. I didn't have a huge call yesterday. I said if we didn't have a gap over yesterday's high that I looked for lower prices. Well, we didn't have the gap and we got lower prices, so I guess that worked, but I certainly can't say we went there in a straight line. Had I called for higher prices, I could have claimed that one worked also. I guess the important takeaway from yesterday's call was that I said it was pretty hard to trade on days when the Fed makes its announcement. One of the things which usually works when the Fed makes its announcement is you get a three-leg whipsaw. The announcement was about 1910-61. The first move usually telegraphs where the market's headed. That was up. There was a big drop down around 38 handles. And according to the rules, we should get a third leg up greater than 38 handles away from the point of the announcement, which gives us a target of exceeding 1948 and change. That's a pretty aggressive target when the market's falling like this and it's the start of a long-term bear. However, there are some other positive things. This is a pattern which usually is a high to low pattern. It tends to close at the day's low. When you can't close under the middle of the day low, it usually leads to higher prices unless we gap under this low. But it's actually more positive than that, because after dropping all day long, we couldn't close under yesterday's low or the low of the day prior to that. And an inability to hold on to lows is actually a positive sign. All that would be erased if we were to gap down tomorrow. MEJT had a few calls. Early on it said ultimately higher prices would print. They did. Here's the target. We got a lot more than the minimum. Here it said ultimately lower prices would print. Here was the minimum. We usually get more than the minimum. Obviously that happened. It said that drop was false and prices would retrace. It says this rally is false. Prices will retrace. And it now gives us a target of 1910.58, most likely to print tomorrow. That'll be the call. I don't talk too much about the MEJT grid, but it's in my book. If you take the high of the MEJT bar and the AM MEJT bar, and you fortuitously pick the proper Fibonacci amount, we can pick 50% right over there, and then you slide this down to the low of the bar. You can usually come up with a pretty close call for a target for the move. You can also get support and resistance levels from other parts of the Fibonacci grid. So this is a plausible MEJT target at today's low. But that's not the only thing that calls for a low there. In addition to that, in addition to holding on to these lows, we needed to undercut the close of number 8, bar number 8 of countdown, for a buy signal, a sequential buy signal on the 130-minute chart. We had to undercut 1872.69. The low of the day was 1872.70. We had to go 2 cents lower. Frankly, that's close enough for me to call this a buy on the sequential. Well, that's a stilt, and that's a stilt. And usually, if that's a diamond, the first challenge of the left stilt holds. That could be a V. Frankly, it's not clear to me it's a diamond, but if it is, we have some higher price targets. If this works and we get the 1948 plus and probably higher than that, we would fulfill my long-term objective of hitting the solid gold line. This one I've talked about, it sure looks out of reach, but who knows. So tomorrow's target is 1910.58, right there. I think if we gap up, it will greatly increase the likelihood the target will print. If we gap under this low, I think the call is pretty much dead from the open. And if we are somewhere in between, I'm going to stick with the call with a lot less confidence. And that is today's call.